Dear students, hello and welcome. Today I am going to deliver a lecture on Beer-Lambert law, light absorption and its transmittance, UV and visible spectrometry principles, instrumentation and its applications, and fluorescence spectroscopy. Now, let us first try to have a look at the main objectives of today's deliberation. Number first is to understand Beer-Lambert law. Number second is to explain the concept of light absorption and its transmittance. Next is explaining in detail UV and visible spectrometry principles. Number fourth is explaining their instrumentation and applications. And finally, we shall be discussing the concept of fluorescence spectroscopy. Now, let us start with the Beer-Lambert law. The Beer-Lambert law, also known as Beer's law, the Lambert-Beer law relates the attenuation of light to the properties of the material through which the light is traveling. The law is commonly applied to chemical analysis measurements and is used in understanding attenuation in physical optics for photons, neutrons or rare field gases. In mathematical physics, this law arises as a solution of the Bhatnagar-Gross and Crook equation. The law was discovered by Pierre Bourdieu before 1729. Lambert's law stated that absorbance of a material sample is directly proportional to its thickness, that's path length. Much later, Auguste Beer discovered another attenuation relation in 1852. Beer's law stated that absorbance is proportional to the concentrations of the attenuating species in the material sample in 1852. The modern derivation of the Beer-Lambert law combines the two laws and correlates the absorbance to both the concentrations of the attenuating species as well as the thickness of the material sample. The Beer-Lambert law is the linear relationship between absorbance and concentration of an absorber of electromagnetic radiation. The general Beer-Lambert law is usually written as A is equal to A lambda into B into C, where A is measured as the absorbance, A lambda is a wavelength dependent absorptivity coefficient, B is the path length and C is the analyte concentration. When working in concentration units of molarity, the Beer-Lambert law is written as A is equal to epsilon lambda into B into C, where epsilon lambda is the wavelength dependent molar absorptivity coefficient. The lambda subscript is often dropped with the understanding that a value for epsilon is for a specific wavelength. If multiple species that absorb light at a given wavelength are present in a sample, the total absorbance at that wavelength is the sum due to all absorbers, which is A is equal to epsilon 1 into B into C1 plus epsilon 2 into B into C2 plus and so on, where the subscripts refer to the molar absorptivity and concentration of the different absorbing species that are present. Experimental measurements are usually made in terms of transmittance, which is defined as T is equal to P divided by P0, where P is the power of light after it passes through the sample and P0 is the initial light power. The relation between A and T is A is equal to minus log T is equal to minus log P divided by P0. Coming to the limitations of the Beer-Lambert law. The linearity of the Beer-Lambert law is limited by chemical and instrumental factors. Causes of non-linearity include: number first is the deviations in absorptivity coefficients at high concentrations, that is greater than 0.01 molar due to electrostatic interactions between molecules in close proximity. Number second is the scattering of light due to particulates in the sample. Number third is the fluorescence or phosphorescence of the sample. Next is the changes in the refractive index at high analyte concentration. Number fifth is the shifts in chemical equilibria as a function of concentration. Number 6 is non-monochromatic radiation. Last is stray light. Now let us discuss light absorption and its transmittance. Absorption of electromagnetic radiation is the way in which the energy of a photon is taken up by matter, typically the electrons of an atom. Thus, the electromagnetic energy is transformed into internal energy of the absorber, for example, thermal energy. The reduction in intensity of a light wave propagating through a medium by absorption of a part of its photons is often called attenuation. Usually, the absorption of waves does not depend on their intensity, although in certain conditions, usually in optics, the medium changes its transparency dependently on the intensity of waves going through, and saturable absorption or nonlinear absorption occurs. There are a number of ways to quantify how quickly and effectively radiation is absorbed in a certain medium. For example, number first, the absorption coefficient. Number second, penetration depth and skin effect. Number third is the propagation constant, attenuation constant, phase constant and complex wave number. Fourth is the complex refractive index and extinction coefficient. Number fifth is the complex dielectric constant. Number six is the electrical resistivity and conductivity. Number seventh is the absorbance, also called optical density, and optical depth, also called optical thickness. All these quantities measure, at least to some extent, how well a medium absorbs radiation. Transmittance of the surface of a material is its effectiveness in transmitting radiant energy. It is the fraction of incident electromagnetic power that is transmitted through a sample, in contrast to the transmission coefficient, which is the ratio of the transmitted to incident electric field. Internal transmittance refers to energy loss by absorption, whereas total transmittance is that due to absorption, scattering, reflection, etc. When light moves through a transparent or semi-transparent material, it can be transmitted, absorbed or reflected. The transmittance of a material is the proportion of the incident approaching light that moves all the way through to the other side. For example, let us say you are shining a flashlight on a semi-transparent glass block. You start off with 100% of your incident light. The first thing that happens is that 30% of that light is reflected off the outer surface of the glass. This leaves you with 70% to continue through the glass block. Another 50% of the light is absorbed by the molecules inside the glass block itself. That leaves you with 20% that emerges from the opposite side. So you could say that the glass block has a transmittance of 20%. The transmittance of a material depends on its thickness, but it also depends on the type of light you are using. A material might have a different transmittance for visible light than it does for infrared or X-rays. That's why hospital X-rays go through your skin until they reach the bones, even though visible light does not. Now let us discuss UV and visible spectrometry principles, instrumentations and its applications. In analytical chemistry, the instrumentation or parts of it may also be considered as systems by the electromagnetic radiation with which they interact or that they produce. Spectrometry is the measurement of such radiations as a means of obtaining information about the systems and their components. In certain types of optical spectroscopy, the radiation originates from an external source and is modified by the system, whereas in other types the radiation originates within the system itself. Spectrometry may refer to ion mobility spectrometry, an analytical technique used to separate and identify ionized molecules in the gas phase based on their ion mobility in a carrier buffer gas. Mass spectrometry, an analytical technique that measures the mass to charge ratio of charged particles. Rutherford backscattering spectrometry, an analytical technique used to determine the structure and composition of materials by measuring the backscattering of a beam of high energy ions impinging on a sample. Neutron triple axis spectrometry, a technique used in inelastic neutron scattering. Optical spectrometry, a technique for measuring the distribution of light across the optical spectrum from the UV spectral region to the visible and infrared. Ultraviolet visible spectroscopy or ultraviolet visible spectrophotometry refers to absorption spectroscopy or reflectance spectroscopy in the ultraviolet visible spectral region. This means it uses light in the visible and adjacent near UV and near infrared ranges. The absorption or reflectance in the visible range directly affects the perceived color of the chemicals involved in this region of the electromagnetic spectrum. Molecules undergo electromagnetic transitions. This technique is complementary to the fluorescence spectroscopy in that fluorescence deals with transitions from the excited state to the ground state, while absorption measures transitions from the ground state to the excited state. Molecules containing pi electrons or non-bonding electrons can absorb the energy in the form of ultraviolet or visible light to excite these electrons to higher antibonding molecular orbitals. The more easily excited the electrons, that is, lower energy gap between the highest occupied molecular orbital and the lowest unoccupied molecular orbital, the longer the wavelength of light it can absorb. The absorption of the electromagnetic radiation excites an electron to the lowest unoccupied molecular orbital and creates an excited state. The more highly conjugated the system, the smaller the HOMO-LUMO gap dE, and therefore the lower the frequency and longer the wavelength. The colors we see in inks, dyes, flowers are typically due to highly conjugated organic molecules. The unit of the molecule that is responsible for the absorption is called the chromophore, of which the most common are C double bond C and C double bond O systems. Coming to the principle. UV spectroscopy obeys Beer-Lambert law, which states that when a beam of monochromatic light is passed through a solution of an absorbing substance, the rate of decrease of intensity of radiation with thickness of the absorbing solution is proportional to the incident radiation as well as the concentration of the solution. The expression of Beer-Lambert law is A is equal to log I0 divided by I is equal to E into C into L, where A is equal to absorbance, I0 is the intensity of light incident upon the sample cell, I is intensity of light leaving sample cell, C is equal to molar concentration of solute, L is equal to length of the sample cell, and E is equal to molar absorptivity. From the Beer-Lambert law, it is clear that greater the number of molecules capable of absorbing light of a given wavelength, the greater the extent of light absorption. This is the basic principle of UV spectroscopy. Next is the instrumentation and working of UV spectroscopy. Instrumentation and working of the UV spectrometers can be studied simultaneously. Most of the modern UV spectrometers consist of the following parts. Number first is the light source. Tungsten filament lamps and hydrogen deuterium lamps are most widely used and suitable light source as they cover the whole UV region. Tungsten filament lamps are rich in red radiations. More specifically, they emit the radiation of 375 nanometer, while the intensity of the hydrogen deuterium lamps falls below 375 nanometer. Number second is the monochromator. Monochromators are generally composed of prisms and slits. The most of the spectrophotometers are double beam spectrophotometers. The radiation emitted from the primary source is dispersed with the help of rotating prisms. The various wavelengths of the light source, which are separated by the prism, are then selected by the slits such that the rotation of the prism results in a series of continuously increasing wavelength to pass through the slits for recording purpose. The beam selected by the slit is monochromatic and further divided into two beams with the help of another prism. Number third is the sample and reference cell. One of the two divided beams is passed through the sample solution and second beam is passed through the reference solution. Both sample and reference solution are contained in the cells. These cells are made of either silica or quartz. Glass cannot be used for the cells as it also absorbs light in the UV region. Number 4 is the detector. Generally, two photocells serve the purpose of detector in UV spectroscopy. One of the photocell receives the beam from sample cell and second detector receives the beam from the reference. The intensity of the radiation from the reference cell is stronger than the beam of the sample cell. This results in the generation of pulsating or alternating currents in the photocells. Number 5 is the amplifier. The alternating current generated in the photocells is transferred to the amplifier. The amplifier is coupled to a small servometer. Generally, current generated in the photocells is of very low intensity. The main purpose of amplifier is to amplify the signals many times so we can get clear and recordable signals. Number 6 is the recording devices. Most of the time, amplifier is coupled to a pen recorder which is connected to the computer. Computer stores all the data generated and produces the spectrum of the desired compound. There are 4 types of shifts observed in the UV spectroscopy. Number 1 is the bathochromic effect. This type of shift is also known as redshift. Bathochromic shift is an effect by virtue of which the absorption maximum is shifted towards the longer wavelength due to the presence of an auxochrome or change in solvents. The non-bonding to pi transition of carbonyl compounds observes bathochromic or redshift. Number 2 is the hypsochromic shift. The effect is also known as blue shift. Hypsochromic shift is an effect by virtue of which absorption maximum is shifted towards the shorter wavelength. Generally, it is caused due to the removal of conjugation or by changing the polarity of the solvents. Number 3 is the hyperchromic effect. It is an effect by virtue of which absorption maximum increases. The introduction of an auxochrome in the compound generally results in the hyperchromic effect. Number 4 is the hypochromic effect. Hypochromic effect is defined as the effect by virtue of intensity of absorption maximum decreases. Hypochromic effect occurs due to the distortion of the geometry of the molecule with an introduction of new group. Coming to the applications of UV spectroscopy. Number 1 is the detection of functional groups. UV spectroscopy is used to detect the presence or absence of chromophore in the compound. This technique is not useful for the detection of chromophore in complex compounds. Number 2 is the detection of extent of conjugation. The extent of conjugation in the polyenes can be detected with the help of UV spectroscopy. With the increase in double bonds, the absorption shifts towards the longer wavelength. If the double bond is increased by 8 in the polyenes, then that polyenes appear visible to the human eye as the absorption comes in the visible region. Number 3 is the identification of an unknown compound. An unknown compound can be identified with the help of UV spectroscopy. The spectrum of unknown compound is compared with the spectrum of a reference compound, and if both the spectrums coincide, then it confirms the identification of the unknown substance. Number 4 is the determination of configurations of geometrical isomers. It is observed that cis alkenes absorb at different wavelength than the trans alkenes. The two isomers can be distinguished with each other when one of the isomers has non-coplanar structure due to steric hindrances. The cis isomer suffers distortion and absorbs at lower wavelength as compared to trans isomer. Number 5 is the determination of the purity of a substance. Purity of a substance can also be determined with the help of UV spectroscopy. The absorption of the sample solution is compared with the absorption of the reference solution. The intensity of the absorption can be used for the relative calculation of the purity of the sample substance. It is also applicable in detection of impurities, structure elucidation of organic compounds, quantitative analysis, qualitative analysis, dissociation constants of acids and bases, chemical kinetics, quantitative analysis of pharmaceutical substances, molecular weight determination, and as HPLC detector. Now, at last, let us discuss fluorescence spectroscopy. Fluorescence is the molecular absorption of the light energy at one wavelength, and it is nearly instantaneous re-emission at another, usually longer wavelength. Some molecules fluoresce naturally and others can be modified to make fluorescent compounds. Fluorescent compounds have two characteristic spectra, that is, an excitation spectrum, the wavelength and amount of light absorbed, and an emission spectrum, that is, the wavelength and amount of light emitted. These spectra are often referred to as a compound's fluorescence signature or fingerprint. No two compounds have the same fluorescence signature. It is this principle that makes fluorometry a highly specific analytical technique. Fluorometry is the measurement of the fluorescence. The instrument used to measure fluorescence is called a fluorometer or a fluorimeter. A fluorometer generates the wavelength of light required to excite the analyte of interest. It selectively transmits the wavelength of light emitted, then it measures the intensity of the emitted light. The emitted light is proportional to the concentration of the analyte being measured up to a maximum concentration. Fluorometers employ monochromators, that is, a spectropolarimeter, optical filters, that is, a filter fluorometer, or narrow band light sources like LEDs or lasers to select excitation and emission wavelengths. Fluorometry is chosen for its extraordinary sensitivity, high specificity, simplicity, and low cost as compared to other analytical techniques. Fluorometry is ordinarily 1000-fold more sensitive than absorbance measurements. It is a widely accepted and powerful technique that is used for a variety of environmental, industrial, and biotechnology applications. It is a valuable analytical tool for both quantitative and qualitative analysis. Fluorescence spectroscopy is a type of electromagnetic spectroscopy which analyzes fluorescence from a sample. It involves using a beam of light, usually ultraviolet light, that excites the electrons in molecules of certain compounds and causes them to emit light, typically but not necessarily visible light. A complementary technique is absorption spectroscopy. In the special case of single molecule fluorescence spectroscopy, intensity fluctuations from the emitted light are measured from either single fluorophores or pair of fluorophores. Molecules have various states referred to as energy levels. Fluorescence spectroscopy is primarily concerned with electronic and vibrational states. Generally, the species being examined has a ground electronic state, that is, a low energy state of interest, and an excited electronic state of high energy. Within each of these electronic states are various vibrational states. In fluorescence, the species is first excited by absorbing a photon from its ground electronic state to one of the various vibrational states in the excited electronic state. Collisions with other molecules causes the excited molecule to lose vibrational energy until it reaches the lowest vibrational state of the excited electronic state. This process is often visualized with a Jablonski diagram. The molecule then drops down to one of the various vibrational levels of the ground electronic state, again emitting a photon in the process. As molecules may drop down into any of several vibrational levels in the ground state, the emitted photons will have different energies and thus frequencies. Therefore, by analyzing the different frequencies of light emitted in fluorescent spectroscopy along with their relative intensities, the structure of the different vibrational levels can be determined. For atomic species, the process is similar. However, single atomic species do not have vibrational energy levels. The emitted photons are often at the same wavelength as the incident radiation. This process of re-emitting the absorbed photons is resonance fluorescence, and while it is characteristic of atomic fluorescence, is seen in molecular fluorescence as well. Fluorescence spectroscopy is used in biochemical, medical and chemical research fields for analyzing organic compounds. There has also been a report of its use in differentiating malignant skin tumors from benign. Atomic fluorescence spectroscopy techniques are useful in other kinds of analysis of a compound present in air or water or other media, such as CVAFS, which is used for heavy metals detection such as mercury. Fluorescence can also be used to redirect photons. Additionally, fluorescence spectroscopy can be adapted to the microscopic level using microfluorimetry. In analytical chemistry, fluorescence detectors are used with HPLC. That is all about today's lecture. Hope you have understood it very well. Thank you very much and goodbye.